Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss American Trading Corporation. If you're brand new to us, thanks for tuning into our podcast, Secret War. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. Look forward to discussing kind of a continuation of our last podcast, where we last podcast, we talked about the difference, or some of the advantages or reasons why a person should own gold. And in this podcast, I'm going to bring my co-host Chris Agelastos on with me. We're going to look at some of the different ways that you can buy, a couple different ways that you can buy gold. And
Yeah.
so, first off, good morning, Chris. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to be here.
You may be one of the few people in Arizona wearing a sweater right now at
It's freezing.
105.
If you live in Arizona, it may be
You do know.
105 outside, but in all the buildings here, the AC is cranking. So
Uh,
you go from melting outside to freezing indoors.
you're 100% right. In fact, if I'm out and about or if I've been traveling, you run into people and they, oh, it's so hot in Arizona in the summer. I'm like, no, it's like 72 to 74 degrees everywhere I go. Like, what are you
Yeah,
talking about? I'm like, you just go from air conditioning to air conditioning.
that's it.
Keep yourself insulated, or you go somewhere else. You work all week and either spend the time in the pool or head somewhere cool for the weekend.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough about the weather. Let's talk about gold and silver. On our last podcast, excuse me, we uh, had a lot of very good input and insight from you, and stuff that I know is very well received. And so on this
Mhm.
one, as we talked about the why of owning gold or some of the reasons for owning gold, we're going to look at the different types of gold. And we'll have
Mhm.
CC is going to put up our graphic here for us. And Chris, this one is personal funds versus retirement funds.
Mhm.
Now, when we say personal funds, for those who may not know what the difference there is, excuse me, these would be funds that you do not have in like a 401k, an IRA, something that the term used is qualified, where those monies are tax deferred as they grow for you throughout the course of your working career until you reach that retirement age. And then you start drawing on those, and you maybe draw on them tax free if you're in something like a Roth, or if I have that wrong, don't I? No, yes, tax free if you have it in a
Ta-
Roth, and if you have it in
Yeah,
a
tax free.
traditional plan, you're gonna start drawing that as income, and you're gonna pay tax on that. So
Yep.
that's a topic for another day. Let's just talk about personal funds versus retirement funds.
Mhm.
So our bullet points here: personal funds, the advantages, direct ownership and control. You have immediate access to your gold. You have a simpler purchase process, very flexible storage options, and no special IRA custodian required. So
Yep.
tell us a little bit about, so I know I just rattled off a few things, but I think
Yeah.
you're qualified enough to be able to explain this to people. What does this all mean, and what are the advantages or benefits ultimately?
Yeah, so personal funds is the way I like to describe it is this isn't your retirement money. This is savings maybe that you have in the bank. Maybe it's cash you have, squirreled away under the mattress or what's called a non-qualified trading account. Maybe something you use to do day trading and buy stocks or mutual funds or something like that. So it's money outside of your retirement, and you want to use that to buy precious metals, gold and silver. So the nice thing about it is it's very easy to use regular savings. I mean, somebody could quite literally call us up today, place an order, within the hour, and then send us a wire or mail us a check and purchase their metal. It's quite literally that quick and easy. And typically within a couple of days of funds clearing, we're already shipping that metal off to them. So I would say ease of purchasing is one of the benefits of using personal funds or private money. One of the other benefits is that you can choose virtually any investment grade gold product you want. Whereas if you're buying in retirement plans, there are some restrictions as to what type of product you can buy. And then one of the other big advantages is that you get to completely decide how and where you want to store your metals. So this is physical metal again, like either bars or typically coins is what's most common and what people want to buy. And we ship it directly to the customer, and so they get to choose: do they want to hold that at home, or bury it in the backyard, or maybe use a safe deposit box or a private vault. We can help with all of those decisions, but it's very quick and easy to be able to make purchases with personal funds.
Fantastic. Now, when it comes to direct ownership with personal funds, direct ownership and control, how much flexibility and latitude do people have in how, like, control wise and as far as ownership, how private and discreet is this type of a purchase?
Yeah. So, unlike most of the purchases that we make as consumers these days, gold ownership can be very private. So, if you're using regular savings like this, nobody really is watching what you're doing or where you're spending your money. It's just like if you walked into a grocery store or a mall and you bought some clothes. Like, nobody's reporting that transaction anywhere. Nobody knows what you're doing. It's just your own private business, right? That's why a lot of times we call it personal or private funds, because it's just your own discretionary money that you get to spend, and nobody's keeping a watchful eye on it, like the IRS is or the government is with retirement plans, because those are tax advantaged products, right? So the government really needs to keep an eye on those, more so they know when to tax you, what you're purchasing, how to tax you appropriately. At the end of the day, the government, they want their piece of the action, right, from all of us taxpayers. So that's one of the big advantages, is that you can actually just buy privately. You're not having to jot your social security down, and let everybody know what you're doing, where you're going, where you're storing your metal. It really is completely private. No different than if you go to the jewelry store and buy a gold watch. Nobody knows what you're doing with that once you have it in your possession. If you want to gift that to your kids, it's just a very private thing. And I think this day and age, there's not a lot of things that we can do and have privacy, right? I mean, you even have to worry about, if you flip on your TV, is there a camera in there, watching you, or if you have Siri, on your phone, sitting on your nightstand, is somebody listening to everything you're saying? So I think this day and age, privacy appeals to a lot of people.
For sure. Well, and to be clear, it's not as though it's not a tax-free investment of any kind. You're just saying it
Right.
is something that, it's not something that's out there, a personal asset of yours that's a matter of public record.
Right.
Anytime in the way our tax code reads, if you buy something, you sell it at a profit, you report that, but
Sure.
it's on your terms. You have the flexibility and the privacy to do it, as you want, not as like a perfect example, which we'll get into in a moment. Like with a retirement account, you reach a certain age, you are forced to start selling off those assets. Whereas with something like this, you only sell it as necessary or as you'd like to. All right,
Yeah.
so let's get
Well,
into retirement fund. Well, and the considerations, like kind of the
mhm.
caveats, there's no tax advantage. In other words, it's not tax free. It is not something like a qualified account or retirement account. And then you do have the responsibility for security and insurance and the discretion that you want to kind of utilize there. And what I will tell people is that, all the years I've done this, is that security has never been an issue and the insurance has never been an issue. It's just been the key ingredient there is discretion. And when I say discretion, meaning you only let somebody who you would trust with your life know what you have and where it's at. And even
Yeah.
that person, I would think two or three times before even letting them know. But with that said, that's just something to take into account. And I know over the years, clients have been a little apprehensive at first, maybe a little reluctant, but then a year or two, 5 years in, they were like, "My goodness, this was one of the best and easiest investments that I've ever made." And all the concerns that I thought were relevant concerns, they really were not, as long as I was, again, utilizing discretion and common sense. So, all
Right.
right, let's talk about retirement. Retirement funds. Let's hit the key points here. Potential for tax deferred or tax free growth. We have a lot of people who are benefiting from that currently.
Yeah.
Can diversify the retirement savings, so not just having to keep it into maybe their own company stock, or with their broker, they can actually have something that is independent of that. You can use self-directed IRA structure, where you have some discretion there with your retirement accounts. You must buy IRS approved bullion or other type of coins.
Mhm.
I'll let you explain a little bit about that. And it must be stored in an approved depository, meaning that the government in this type of investment, or really anything with your retirement accounts, they don't want you, the easy definition is they don't want you benefiting from the use of the asset before you've paid tax on the asset. And so
That's right.
therefore it has to be kept in some kind of a third party depository with a somebody who is, taking care of making sure everything is in check there. So
Yep.
with those bullet points, Chris, tell us retirement funds. What are some key points in addition to what we've talked about, or elaborate on these key points that people should be aware of or know about before getting involved?
Yeah, so tax benefits, that's a big one. And as a lot of people I'm sure know, if they've been putting into a pre-tax 401k or 403b, a 457 deferred comp plan, something like that, you get to take that money out of your paycheck before you paid taxes on it. And what a lot of people don't realize is they can actually use that money by doing either a rollover or a transfer to purchase physical metal. And when you buy your physical gold or silver with those retirement funds, while it's growing, you're not paying any taxes on it, and that's one of the big advantages. And if you have a Roth IRA, like we mentioned earlier, Roth IRA growth can come out completely tax free. So somebody who bought gold a couple of years ago at $1,800 an ounce, and now it's $4,000 to $5,000 an ounce. All of that growth, when they cash out of that plan, or they need to take some of that money to pay bills or take a trip or have some fun money, they don't have to pay any taxes on it because it was in their Roth IRA. So that's a big benefit to using some of your retirement money to purchase physical metal. And it also, like we talked about in our previous broadcast the other day, it enables you to diversify some of your retirement savings. So many people sign up for a retirement plan and go with the default, maybe the S&P 500 or some sort of general stock mutual fund, and even though they may own other stocks, they're really not all that diversified as far as being in different asset classes like gold offers them, or real estate or something of that nature. So it's a big advantage for people wanting to diversify that way. Now there are some restrictions on what type of product you can buy. So there are only certain types of bars and or coins, and most people go with coins. 1 ounce coins are the most common. And typically, we recommend U.S. products. Like American Eagles. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with those. But you can do Canadian Maple Leaves and some other foreign coins as well. And then the big thing is just, you're right. The government wants to make sure that if you're using your retirement money to purchase physical gold, that gold is going to be stored safely and insured against loss. And so that's one area that's very different from the personal funds we were talking about earlier. We can ship you your metal and you could quite literally bury it in the backyard if you want to. Nobody's checking up on where you're storing it or how you're storing it. With the retirement plan, it does have to go to an insured depository, which I think is a good idea, quite honestly, for most people's retirement savings. It doesn't mean you can't have some gold at home. A lot of our clients do both, and that's how I feel like I have an even higher level of diversification, because I have my own physical metal that I can store at home or at a safe deposit box. But then I also have my IRA metals that I know are in a large insured vault. And so I feel like that's another form of physical diversification. I have not only are my eggs in two different baskets, but my baskets are in different states even. So
Right.
that's one of the advantages of using your retirement money, is that you do have access to very inexpensive but high quality and insured storage facilities that will protect the metal and vault it for you.
Fantastic. Well, great information. And so now let's get into the caveats or the considerations.
Sure.
It does have a more complex setup than if you're using personal funds. Now,
Yeah.
however, that's a very, very um, when it says complex, it's not altogether that complex.
It's about
The
30
different
minutes of paperwork. Yeah, it's not
paperwork.
it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just not quite as quick and easy as as purchasing with private dollars.
That's right. And then there's a little bit with, getting the account set up and things transferred over. But altogether, at the end of the day, really, you're right. It's that 30 minutes, a little extra of paperwork versus, name, address, and what I'd like to purchase. So that's one
Yeah.
caveat, however. The second, the annual custodian and storage fees, that may apply. That could be, again, something, a consideration for people. That's come up over the years. However, the
Mhm.
storage fees tend to be very minimal. And when I say
Yeah.
very, like very, very minimal compared to, the person's investment account. And one of the things that more in particular, especially over the years, a lot of people are typically invested in funds of various sorts or whatever, or they have management fees to their wealth manager, et cetera.
Mhm.
The fees on their gold, not only are they not any different than what they have currently, but in most cases, they are substantially less overall than what they're paying, through the fees that are built in or structured within that fund, or again through a wealth manager. So my
Yeah.
point being is it's not, let's just for discussion say it tends to be a very lateral move at worst case scenario.
Yeah,
So
just to hit on that point real quickly, I usually tell people if you have 15 or $20,000 or more in stocks, mutual funds, annuities, and almost any other type of traditional investment, you're probably going to pay more in annual fees with Schwab or Merrill Lynch or Edward Jones, whoever you're with, than you will for one of these precious metal IRAs. So it's not free, but it's very, very inexpensive compared to most other investments. So don't even let cost be a consideration.
all right, there you go. All right, so finishing up with this part of it, the key takeaway. Personal funds offer control and simplicity. Chris, you've explained that very well. Retirement funds offer tax advantages, but come with more rules, fees, and storage requirements, none of which are uh, overbearing, but just
Right.
just kind of a little different dynamic, but something that yourself or other representatives at Swiss America very easily walk people through.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Well, CC will put up the page from our website where if you are tuned in here and you'd like to open up a free account where you can do transacting in your retirement account and or with individual funds, you can click on the link that you'll see in our show description. It gives you a lot of various benefits to opening that account. And by the way, if you're opening a free account, that doesn't mean you need to transact today or ever for that matter. You can open the account, initially speaking, to have access to a variety of resources that will help educate you, help you understand things. You can sign up for our e-newsletter that goes out by email. And as you do that, you may find it may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but at some point in the future, with that education that you'll be building upon, you can be more equipped to make the right decision and get involved in the market. I would encourage you, if you're not diversified currently, you should do so like yesterday. But even
Yeah.
if today is not the day, you could do it in the future. All right, thank you, Chris, and thanks
Mhm.
to you for who've tuned in. Excuse me, I can't talk today. We look forward to talking to you more in the future. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Yep. Take care.